Welcome to Sculpture Studios. Here we are creating an Iceberg stage. Tony from Einstein's Octopus came to the studio and asked us to create a large stage decorated with polystyrene iceberg theming. The whole set was designed for an Australian frozen foods commercial involving the band Status Quo. Now, we've done a lot of theatrical ice looking work in the past, particularly with polystyrene, but with any organic material such as wood or rock or ice, there are many different looks and forms and textures. So we give suggestions, use existing photographic examples or examples of our previous work so as to make sure we create exactly what the client wants. As well as the decoration of the set, we were asked to construct the woodwork that makes up the base. Here you can see a concept image of the stage from plan view. The 9 wooden platforms were to be raised on stilts as the stage would be standing in a foot of water, with the set wrapping around so that the whole piece looked as though it was a giant iceberg floating on the surface. Along with this, we were asked to carve sheets of polystyrene ice to be positioned behind the stage so as to create a backdrop for the shoot. We've done a lot of work previously for Einstein's Octopus over the years, so Tony was confident that Sculpture Studios could tackle not only the artistic side, but also the constructional side of this project. As with many of our jobs here, Aidan begins with the familiar 8x4 by 2 foot blocks of polystyrene. These blocks are the perfect size for both transportation and manageability for one person, if Aidan's the only person in the studio at the time. He cuts them to appropriate sizes and thicknesses, and begins mapping out rough areas to start carving. If you've seen any of our previous videos of our work, you'd know that one of Aidan's favourite tools to use is the hot wire. Using a hot wire in this fashion allows him to remove the material quickly, and it forms flats, crevices and sharp points that carving with a nail brush or a wire brush wouldn't achieve. He can bend the wire to form any shape he wishes, and with the hot wire running through the polystyrene, you can see that lines are created, and this is perfect for an ice sheet look. Using this method, however non-strenuous physically it is, it still requires a really good eye for both detail and creating a random and organic feel at the same time. Here in this studio, Russell is already well underway in creating the wooden bases for the stage. From scratch, he is measuring out and constructing 9 bases in total of various lengths and widths. These structures need to be strong, as they're all going to be walked on and all need to be able to be bolted together, so that they don't move or come apart when weight or movement is put on top of them. And if you look at the bottom, you can see how the legs will hold the bases higher than the foot of the water they're standing in. We go around and make sure that each of the bases is marked and numbered, so that we know what goes where when we get it to site. Russell's just going round with a roofing square and clamps to make sure that everything's in line and precise before he bolts everything in place, as the angle of these legs are crucial to the strength of the stage. Now it's on to sizing up and fitting the polystyrene forms to the stage. It's important for us as a team to discuss and talk a project through, working out what needs to go where and how much material is needed, so that we can work efficiently and know that everyone's on the same page. While Aidan's carving, we're all blocking out the bulk of the set in manageable sized pieces that can be removed and rejoined. Once again, Aidan uses the hot wire so as to stay in keeping with the look of the ice sheets he was carving earlier. Later he'll go over some of the areas with a chainsaw, and this will create a rougher, more snow-like surface. All of these parts of the process take a lot of time, much of which goes unnoticed to those outside of the business, so we create these videos and these montages just to show what actually goes on and how much work we put in when we take on one of these projects. With any job, particularly one of this size and scale, there's always a lot of moving around, cleaning up and reshuffling especially, so we just make sure the studio's tidy so we can manage around the job. After Aidan's finished with the hot wires and the chainsaw, we give the whole job a sanding down and add a soft filler to create a smoother surface. This helps lose the bead-like look of the polystyrene and just gives the exterior a slightly tougher finish, particularly on the corners where they can be easily knocked or damaged. Here on the back of the ice sheets we're just making up the joins and giving the whole job a layer of white obliteration paint. Not only does this smoothen out and fill the surface even further, but it also prepares the polystyrene surface for airbrushing. To give the ice more of a theatrical feel, Aidan hits the deeper spots of the polystyrene sculpture with a spray of blue, as shadow is what normally causes ice to have its watery blue tinge. Lights and natural shadow can aid in making this blue deeper, so the deepness can be increased depending on the studio conditions during the shoot. For more intricate paintwork or jobs that require more detail and time spent on them, Aidan would often hire outside assistance from airbrush artists. But for large scale coverage such as this job, it's easy for Aidan to hit all of the blocks in one go and get the whole job finished quickly. That way he can keep an eye on the overall balance of the blue as it's only him spraying, so that everything's got an equal coverage. Here I am underneath, making sure all the bolts secure correctly, and then taking them out in preparation for transport. We need to keep all these bolts together so that we can pop them back in once the job is on site. Here's the set all finished in our studio, and we always like to take a few pictures for our portfolio and a few images of the job before being transported, should anything happen, not that it usually does, but just as an added insurance on our work. We created this ice stool for the band drummer, and left it detached so that it could be fixed on the stage later. So this is the job as it looks in what we thought would be its finished state, but alas, as usual, it was just the calm before the storm. Having just enough room on the lorry, we needed to make sure we packed in everything nice and tight and secure, starting with moving all the wooden bases out first to make sure that we'd secured them down properly. We realised that building the polystyrene sculptures in this particular studio would mean we'd have some space issues, and we needed to lift the larger pieces out over the divide to the larger doors. It's quite worrying moving things about that you've spent a lot of time neatening up and keeping in good condition, as it's easy for polystyrene especially to get knocked and damaged. But with a few of us on the job, we managed to get it out the studio without any damage whatsoever, and likewise at the other end when we unloaded. Another complication arose when we set the stage up on location, as the director wanted us to move the left-hand side wall of ice outwards and push the back wall further off stage. Here you can see the unpainted line of the stage where the original wall should have come to. Now this sounds simple enough to do, but in hindsight it takes a lot of work to rejoin two pieces that are now half a metre divided, especially when you're not in your own studio with your own tools and materials. But as you can see, we came prepared with a few pieces of spare polystyrene and a couple of tools, and managed to construct the joining sections to make the set seamless once more. Here you can see the join line where the puzzle pieces of polystyrene fit together. We're sealing the joins with soft filler once again, and then going over with the white and blue paint to hide the lines completely. We spent the day at Black Island Studios fixing up the set, staying longer than we'd originally planned to due to this design change, but at Sculpture Studios we'll always get the agreed job done. We've never let a client down yet, and this was no exception. We even created a few extra baby icebergs to be sent up a few days later to float on the water. And here you can see status quo on the stage with all the extra ice sheets set up behind. As ever with Einstein's Octopus, the projects are always interesting and diverse, and we'd like to thank Tony especially for entrusting Sculpture Studios with the work. We look forward to many projects to come. Thank you very much.